It's not a scene from GTA or The Last of Us. What you're looking at is a real image of a Lamborghini parked in front of a luxury mansion in Los Angeles, surrounded by what looks like the fiery gates of hell. This isn't a post-apocalyptic movie set. It's the grim reality of one of the worst natural disasters to strike the United States. Entire neighborhoods have been reduced to ashes, with thousands of homes completely destroyed. Former President Donald Trump once called it the worst disaster in American history. What's shocking about these wildfires is that they ravaged some of the wealthiest neighborhoods in California, home to celebrities and multimillionaires. From California to Los Angeles, the death toll has reached dozens, while over 250,000 people have been displaced. As of now, the financial losses are estimated at a staggering $150 billion, equivalent to the budget of an entire nation. Ironically, Trump's fiery rhetoric about unleashing hell on the Middle East seems to have backfired, as this inferno started closer to home, consuming even his own neighborhood. But what's the full story behind these fires? Why are some people drawing parallels to the tragedy in Gaza? For those who found themselves surrounded by flames, the experience felt like Judgment Day itself. Fire engulfed them from every direction, leaving them with no escape. This disaster struck California, the third largest state in the U.S., a place with a long and tragic history of wildfires. But this fire was different, more intense, more destructive, and far more terrifying. California's geography and climate make it a magnet for wildfires. Despite being in the far west of the U.S., the state experiences a Mediterranean-like climate with long, hot, and dry summers. Periods of extreme drought make California's landscape resemble the African desert, creating the perfect conditions for wildfires. Dry grass and brush accumulate, acting as fuel for the flames. Adding to the danger are chaparral shrubs, which are highly flammable due to their oily nature, almost like gasoline waiting for a spark. And then there's the wind. California is notorious for its powerful Santa Ana winds, which sweep in from the deserts, drying everything in their path and fanning the flames. These winds can reach speeds of over 100 kilometers per hour, turning small fires into raging infernos. In the past, wildfire season typically lasted from late summer to early fall. Now, it seems to stretch year-round. As of now, at least 16 people have been killed, and nearly 200,000 have been forced to evacuate their homes. Entire neighborhoods have been wiped off the map, leaving thousands homeless. Drone and helicopter footage of the devastation is haunting. It's hard not to draw comparisons to Hiroshima or Gaza, the same level of destruction, though caused by different forces. According to American reports, some fires, like the Sunset Fire, have been contained, but others remain out of control. The Hearst Fire burned 771 acres, the Kenneth Fire scorched 959 acres, and the Eaton Fire destroyed 13,690 acres. The most devastating of all was the Palisades Fire, which consumed over 200,000 acres. California, the third largest state in the U.S., has been turned into a war zone, but without soldiers or bombs. Preliminary reports estimate the economic losses at $135 to $150 billion, making it potentially the costliest wildfire in U.S. history. What makes these fires so expensive is their location. Densely populated areas around Los Angeles, home to some of the most valuable real estate in the country. Insurance companies predict that the wildfires in Los Angeles alone could set a new record for destruction. Mansions owned by celebrities like Kim Kardashian, Paris Hilton, Mel Gibson, and Anthony Hopkins were among the many multi-million-dollar properties destroyed. The winds were so fierce, exceeding 100 kilometers per hour, that they created fire tornadoes, miniature cyclones of flame. Watching footage of these scenes, it feels like witnessing an explosion on the surface of the sun. Some of you might wonder, why all the fear and awe? What makes California so unique? If you dig a little deeper into this state's story, you'll be stunned. Known as the Golden State, California is the third largest state in the U.S. and spanning 423,970 square kilometers. It's also the most populous with over 40 million residents, making it the #1 state in America by population. But here's the jaw-dropping fact. California alone as a standalone entity boasts the 5th largest economy in the world. Its economic power rivals that of entire nations like France, the United Kingdom, and even Brazil. Let me clarify. I'm not talking about a country, but a single U.S. state. If California were ever to secede and become an independent nation, its $4 trillion economy would secure it a place among the world's economic giants. This economic strength stems from California's role as a hub of innovation, creativity, and industry. It's home to Silicon Valley, the epicenter of global technology, where giants like Apple, Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Tesla are headquartered. In many ways, California is the beating heart of America, its industrial core, and even its cultural soul. The state is also a tourism magnet, hosting one of the most iconic cities in the world, Los Angeles. As the second largest city in the U.S., LA is a global center for entertainment and culture, home to Hollywood, the epicenter of film and television production, and Disneyland, one of the most visited theme parks on Earth. Now let me share my perspective, particularly on the idea of gloating over these fires or seeing them as divine retribution against Americans for their government's support of Israel. To be honest, these matters belong to the realm of the unseen, and we cannot confirm them with certainty. While the U.S. government undoubtedly supports Israel in every way, there is a significant portion of the American public that disagrees with this policy. Even if they don't actively side with Palestinians, many Americans oppose their taxes funding wars abroad. Millions of Americans outright dislike Israel, and you've likely seen the massive protests across the U.S., particularly on college campuses. Young Americans in the prime of their lives have sacrificed their careers and education to support Palestine and Gaza. Many were expelled from universities or lost their jobs simply for standing in solidarity. One Jewish student shared, "I'm here to support my Palestinian brothers and sisters who are facing genocide, just as my family did during the Holocaust. I know the pain and suffering they must feel, and I stand against this massacre. I refuse to let my faith be used to justify atrocities against Palestinians." Some people claim these fires are divine punishment for America's support of Israel, arguing that the U.S. deserves what's happening, but can we really call this divine retribution? Honestly, I don't know. If we label it as such, what do we make of other tragedies? For instance, a crane collapse in Mecca killed dozens of pilgrims, and fatal stampedes during Hajj have claimed hundreds of lives. Should we call these events divine punishment too? Just last year, a devastating earthquake struck Morocco, killing thousands, especially among the Amazigh people of the Atlas Mountains, known for their modesty, piety, and generosity. Was that earthquake a punishment? And it wasn't just Morocco. Around the same time, another earthquake devastated parts of Syria and Turkey. If a disaster were to strike Egypt tomorrow, a flood, an earthquake, or a fire, would we rush to call it divine retribution simply because of its government's political alliances? Is it ethical, moral, or even humane to gloat over such tragedies? Consider the collapse of the dam in Libya, which caused the worst humanitarian disaster in the country's history. Thousands of innocent civilians, including Muslims, were swept away in the floods. Mosques, orphanages, and Quran schools were all destroyed. Is it reasonable to see such devastation as divine punishment and celebrate it on social media? In recent years, Algeria has faced a series of devastating wildfires, claiming the lives of innocent victims by the dozens. These were ordinary citizens, people with no involvement in political or global conflicts. So is it ethical, humane, or even logical to view these tragedies as divine punishment? To gloat over the suffering of people who may have no connection to what's happening in the Middle East or their government's policies? In my opinion, such behavior is utterly inhumane. A significant portion of the American population, actors, musicians, intellectuals, writers, athletes, and even politicians, have demonstrated extraordinary empathy for the Palestinian cause and countless other humanitarian crises worldwide, many of which were caused by their own country. To celebrate their misfortunes, to mock them in their darkest hours, and to let this mockery reach them through social media because it will reach them, is not only unkind, but counterproductive. Imagine the scenario. The Zionist lobby will seize upon these tweets, videos, and posts and use them to turn Americans against Palestinians. Those who were once allies may become adversaries. Instead of advocating for an end to the war in Gaza, these individuals might demand that their government send even more weapons. This kind of gloating breeds only enemies when what we desperately need are friends. Remember, Israel has a strong influence over global media narratives. Suppose an American in California, someone who has been a vocal supporter of Gaza, sees their home consumed by flames. This person has marched in protests, donated their own money, and used their platform to amplify the voices of the oppressed. Now imagine them scrolling through social media, only to find the very people they supported mocking their tragedy. How do you think they would feel? Natural disasters don't discriminate. They strike Muslims, Jews, Christians, and even those without any faith. Many Americans and Westerners in general disagree with their government's domestic policies, let alone their foreign ones. How can we expect them to align with us if we push them away with blind hatred? This is my personal opinion. I might be wrong or I might be right. I encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments because no one holds the absolute truth. Just as you sometimes learn from me, I also learn from you, and I value your opinions and critiques. Now, the bigger question on everyone's mind is why? What caused all of this? What's the logical explanation behind these events? Let's start with some unconfirmed theories before diving into the real causes. Some rumors suggest that it all began with a gas leak in certain areas, leading to a massive explosion. Videos circulating online seem to support this claim, but no official authority has confirmed it. Another theory points to cyber attacks, hackers targeting critical infrastructure. This raises the question, was this a terrorist act or just an accident? When we dig into the real causes, we find that the truth is much simpler than the conspiracy theories making the rounds. The first and most logical reason is California's vegetation and drought. California is infamous for its long dry seasons. Rainfall in winter helps plants grow, but when summer arrives and temperatures soar, those same plants become the perfect fuel for wildfires, like gasoline waiting for a spark. Once a single leaf catches fire, the flames spread at an alarming speed. It's like watching a chain reaction that's impossible to stop. The second reason is the Santa Ana winds. These hot, dry winds sweep across Southern California during fall and winter, and they play a major role in the spread of wildfires. Let me break it down for you. The Santa Ana winds originate in areas of high pressure over the inland deserts like Nevada. They flow from east to west, descending over mountain ranges toward the California coast. As these winds move downhill, they undergo a process called compressional heating, which raises their temperature even further and strips away any remaining moisture. These winds can reach speeds of over 100 kilometers per hour, sometimes even faster. When they blow through dry forests, they create the perfect storm. They dry out vegetation and soil even more, making them highly flammable. And when a small fire starts, the winds carry burning embers to new areas, spreading the fire rapidly. Even when firefighters arrive, the winds become their greatest enemy. The intensity of the gusts changes the direction of the flames, making it nearly impossible to contain the fire. In some cases, the winds are so strong that they prevent planes and equipment from reaching the affected areas. The third reason is the terrain. Los Angeles is full of hills and valleys, which act as a natural accelerant for fires. Flames climb slopes faster than they spread on flat ground, making it harder to control the blaze. Finally, there's the issue of infrastructure. Many fires start because of faults in aging power lines. A tiny spark from a damaged cable can ignite a massive fire in seconds. Sometimes, even a small act of negligence, like tossing a cigarette onto dry leaves, can trigger a disaster far beyond what anyone could imagine. Finally, and perhaps the reason I almost forgot to mention, is the rise in global temperatures. Haven't you noticed how summers have become unbearably intense? The heat is relentless, and the world is becoming increasingly prone to disasters like this. And let me reassure you, actually warn you, that every day temperatures are rising and every day the situation gets worse. But why does the situation in Los Angeles keep deteriorating? Why was it so hard to control the fires this time? There are several reasons, my friend. First, the high population density in areas near the forests made it nearly impossible to control the fire. Civilians were everywhere, caught in the flames, their terrifying screams echoing through the chaos. Second, the lack of resources for rescue teams. Now, I'm not just talking about resources themselves, but the way large-scale fires like this are handled. Imagine with all the technological advancements we've achieved, we still don't have effective tools to combat such massive wildfires. Honestly, it's baffling. What happened in Los Angeles wasn't just a disaster. It was a message, a stark reminder of how fragile our existence on this planet is. It showed us how, in an instant, everything could be gone. We're not as secure as we like to think. Our lives are never guaranteed. In a single moment, the Creator could command, "Be," and it is. The situation is terrifying, and the end feels closer every day. It's almost as if this is a divine message urging humanity to reflect and return to the right path before it's too late. Now, the last point I want to address in today's video is about the conspiracy theories circulating online. Many videos claim that everything we saw was fake, that nothing happened in Los Angeles and all the footage was fabricated. I honestly don't understand the root of this rumor, but I think it started when people began celebrating the disaster, saying it was divine punishment and that those affected deserved it for their actions. From my perspective, I don't see this as something to celebrate or take pride in. Every place in the world has its share of good and bad people. There are children, elderly women, and innocent families everywhere, dreams and lives caught in the chaos. Regardless of where it happens, this is not something to rejoice over. That's just my opinion, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this is something people should gloat about or celebrate because it happened in a specific country? Or do you agree with me that innocent lives were lost and that this tragedy doesn't warrant any form of joy or mockery? I'm genuinely excited to see your opinions and comments below. Your perspective, my friend, is incredibly important to me. Well, that brings us to the end of the video. If you've made it this far, know that you're one of the amazing people closest to my heart. Let me know in the comments, "Mar, I made it to the end," so I can recognize you too. And don't forget to share this video with those close to you. Most importantly, take care of yourself and stay safe until I see you again in a new video. The third reason is the terrain. Los Angeles is full of hills and valleys, which act as a natural accelerant for fires. Flames climb slopes faster than they spread on flat ground, making it harder to control the blaze. Finally, there's the issue of infrastructure. Many fires start because of faults in aging power lines. A tiny spark from a damaged cable can ignite a massive fire in seconds. Sometimes even a small act of negligence like tossing a cigarette onto dry leaves can trigger a disaster far beyond what anyone could imagine.